Hello everybody, welcome to my messy room. Today I'm going to be continuing the episode reviews of Game of Thrones that I kind of abandoned. I already have episode 1 and 2 out, which I did like a couple of months ago, but with season 2 coming out, I figured that I should get started and finish this. So I will, now that I'm taking this part of my channel more seriously. Anyways, just for you guys to know, the way I review the episodes is by comparing them to the books. I mean, I'm a big fan of these books, which is the A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R. R. Martin, just in case you haven't read the books and are interested. And season 1 of Game of Thrones is based on book 1, which is Game of Thrones. But anyways, because I have read the book and I love them so much, it's kind of impossible for me not to compare the two. And don't get me wrong, I understand that they are going to be completely different. And in fact, I'm surprised they're as similar as they are. And it doesn't really bother me, but there are just some things I think the show did either better or worse than the books, and I just like to reflect on that sometimes. So, warning that I might be bringing up the book sometimes, and also a warning I might be telling you things that the show might have left out that the book might have had, so that might be a spoiler warning for you guys, and or the show just chooses to put it later on, which I won't know, so I might spoil some things. But chances are you've already watched all the episodes of the show, as season 1 is over currently. Or if you've read the book, you might know a lot more than the general public knows. I don't know. So let's get started. Anyways, we're going to get started with episode 3, like I said, and I'm not going to be doing scene by scene. I'm kind of just going to be doing character by character. And let's start with Ned, since he was the opening scene, and he ends up in King's Landing. Obviously, that's where his goal locale. And as soon as he arrives and he's gonna take on his handly duties, there's this awkward Jaime and Ned scene, and it was just awkward because it never happened in the books, but it was also awkward because it just kind of threw things in there, but I see why they had to do this, and it's better they just got this over with, why Jaime and Ned don't really like each other, and the main reason is that Jaime killed the king, and Ned, you know how honorable he is, and since Jaime was part of the King's Guard, his job is to protect the king, and basically he kind of messed that up and killed the king instead. But his justification was, like, to Ned especially, was that he witnessed Ned's father and brother being burned, like, in front of, like, the public and the whole court, and even though he didn't do it while everybody was watching Ned's death, he did it after. His kind of justification was like, can I let somebody like that sit the throne? Somebody who will seriously watch someone, like, burn to death? So it's just kind of like one of those, I don't know, just one of those things where you're not really sure who's justified. Ned obviously feels that the Kingsguard job is to protect the king, but obviously if you're sitting there protecting someone who's just a terrible person, burning people alive, how much can you take? How much will you witness before you feel like you have to step in? And we all know Jaime's a douchebag, but in this situation, I don't really blame Jaime for killing the king. I mean, I know it's his job to protect him, but Jesus, that guy sounded terrible. So anyways, as Ned's doing his is doing his, like, hand, his job as a hand, he finds out, like, the realm's beggared, that Robert's not even there to help with whatever responsibilities or problems that are arising in the court. And he also, like, we also get, like, this kind of Peter Catelyn mention where Peter got, like, cut up by Ned's brother. I guess, over Catelyn Stark. It was a duel, fair duel. Also, with the Ned scenes, we see the way he interacts with his daughters. One daughter, which is Sansa, is, I guess, feels like neglected by her father, or I don't know what, because, and I understand her attitude in this scene, because he brings her a doll, and she says she hasn't played with dolls since she's 8, and she kind of has that teenager attitude, and I kind of felt bad for Ned, because he just wanted to do something nice for his daughter, and she kind of like just was like, you know, I never played with dolls, but I understand her part too, because like, you know, her dad should know her, but I think of all the children, he least relates to Sansa because he's the man of the house, and I guess since they do play those typical man-woman roles, and Arya's more of a tomboyish, Ned could even relate to her, but Sansa, since she's like the girly, ladylike one, I think he's the least connected to her. But still, I mean, like, Myrcella, who is the queen's daughter, she had dolls, so I think it was safe for Ned to assume that Sansa would want to be like the queen's daughter and got her a doll. I thought it was nice, but oh well, I don't like Sansa anyways, so anyways, and then Ned talks to Arya later, and he finds out that she has a sword, which I thought it was, like, stupid how he found out, because she was just answered the door with the sword in her hand, and it's just like, obviously he's gonna notice that, like, and, you know, she was expecting him to take it away from her, which is just like, why did you, like, answer the door with the sword? But anyways, the point was he was supposed to find out. And we also, like, find out, like, this justifiable reason why Sansa acted the way she did and lied. Instead of protecting her sister, she kind of chose Joffrey's side. And I don't know, they didn't really justify it in the books because Joffrey was kind of still on that, besides being a little prick, he was still, like, in that, like, honeymoon kind of a phase where he was kind of sweeting, like, baiting Sansa and trying to play the romantic role. But anyways, I don't know. Here they justify it by the fact that since Sansa's going to marry him, that she needs to stick up for him, where in the books it's more like she was just being dumb and stupid, and like her like ditzy love for Joffrey was the reason she defended him. So here they make Sansa look like she's not that bad, but in the books, And anyways, Ned lets Arya keep her sword, which is just absolutely adorable. And you see, like, that he does relate to her a lot more than Sansa. And I think the reason is that Sansa's the most girly, therefore he can't really relate to her that much. But in the books, he does, like, at least take the time to talk to all of his children, or, like, teach all of his children, just to spend time with all of his children. And I think the least one, even in the books, is Sansa. That's the least one he spends time with. So anyways, they didn't use my favorite quote, which was, I think, something along the lines like, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. And that was like one of the best quotes from the book ever. And he doesn't use it with Arya. In fact, he just kind of explains what that quote means. He doesn't use the quote, but what the quote means is, like, we're in a dangerous place. You need to stick by your sister's side because all we have is each other. Yeah, he kind of just says one of those things instead of saying the very famous and in-depth quote, which is, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. That's like one of my favorite quotes ever. What else do we have? Oh, Catelyn comes to Ned and shows him the dagger that was used to, like, try to assassinate Bran. And so now Ned's more suspicious of the Lannisters because Peter identifies the dagger as Tyrion's, and this is like a big thing. And even though technically I do know what happens in the future, because I've read the books, the reason I would not say Tyrion is because Tyrion's not the type to put himself out there for someone else. Like, we see him, like, so kind of, like, not self-absorbed, but, like, kind of just always protecting himself, and I doubt he would ever put himself in a position where he would assassinate or attempt to assassinate someone for his sister especially. I mean, his relationship with his brother is not that bad, but if it like was a favor for his sister, I don't think it would happen ever. So yeah, I really don't think it was Tyrion. And also, like, Tyrion, as smart as we see him, the last thing he would do was give the assassin, like, a nice dagger that he owned. I'm just a Tyrion fan. Like, I'll defend him to the end. Like, even if he was, like, a child murderer, I'd still, like, end up defending him. And then last Ned scene that I think was noteworthy is, and it's actually the last scene of the show, was Ned actually watching Arya do the Syrio training, and this is like my favorite. Syrio and Arya are like the best. Like, those are like my most favorite memorable moments in the Song of Ice and Fire series. And he does it brilliantly. Like, Syrio may not look like Syrio from the books, but the way he talks, and he actually uses direct quotes, which I always love. And the whole relationship was pretty spot on. Arya is pretty, like, one of, like, I think the closest characters to the books. So yeah, and then Ned's watching, and then he's like happy, like he's watching his daughter do something she loves, and then his face gets kind of solemn. And I don't know the reason for this, and like the only thing I could think of are like two reasons. Is one, maybe his daughter's not the lady that she should be, and so this might cause some trouble when she's kind of forced into like ladyhood, like, which might happen, because even though he's letting her be the tomboy that she is, their society would not accept that, so maybe he's sad about that. Or two, maybe he's sad that since they're in such a dangerous like position, that she would actually have to use the weapon. So those are the two things that I'm thinking Ned might be a little bit kind of very solemn about or whatnot. So let's see what else we find out in this show. What I thought was noteworthy was Cersei and Joffrey. Like, the way she talks to him and makes him like God. Like, he's like a little god, and no wonder he's such an abusive, like, little demon child, because she makes him feel like he's a god, he can do nothing wrong. While she did tell him that his, like, war on the north was, like, a stupid idea, she kind of is, like, instilling values in him that makes him think that, like, everyone's an enemy, which is probably, like, one of the worst qualities a king could have. Like, in every book, whenever there's a paranoid king who thinks everyone's out to get him, in every book you read, like, that's, like, the worst kind of king you can get. So, just these values she's instilling in him was very noteworthy because they are just sick. And then we also get Cersei Jaime talking about Bran and how, like, she didn't want him to be thrown off the tower or whatnot, but I wouldn't put it past her now, like, that he got thrown off and survived, that she would attempt to kill him. But they're just talking about it and their love, and, like, the way they talk about how much they love each other, and Jaime talking about how he'd do anything to, like, preserve their love. It's just, like, I wouldn't put it past him or her to send an assassin after Bran, honestly. So what else we have here? We have Jon Snow. Jon Snow is out on the wall, and they're getting trained. I don't think the show initiated them yet, because in the books they're not initiated yet. They're still training, but they're not initiated into the Night's Watch. So they're getting trained by, I forget his name, but he's such an asshole. So anyways, they're getting trained by this really, like, angry person, and, like, his technique is just to make everyone hate each other. That way they, like, use their brute strength to, like, harm each other. And of course Jon Snow has privilege of knowing how to fight and how to use everything. So the other people are, of course, like, you know, feel kind of just this resentment towards Jon. And then it's not until Tyrion comes up and says, like, look, you're actually privileged. Like, as bad as you think you have it just because you're a bastard, your father actually took you in and provided you with care, like fancy clothing, fancy training. So it's just like, he tells him how fortunate he is. And then the next thing we know, we see Jon Snow training his Night Watch brothers, which I'm pretty sure they're not initiated yet, but he starts training them, and he's not training them like the other guy. He's training them with like positive reinforcement and like letting them know what they're actually doing wrong. Like the other trainer, he just like, try to hit this guy, and then they just end up like beating each other up with like no technique. So we also get a glimpse of Yoren, who actually collects people for the Night's Watch. He's a very cool guy. You don't get to see him much. Well, you see him much, but you don't see what he does much. He's a really cool guy. I can't wait till I see what he does in the future. And then we have Benjen, who is my favorite. One of my favorite Night's Watch characters. I think he is my favorite Night's Watch. No, Quarren Halfhand is. I wonder if he's in the show. Oh, okay. Anyways, Benjen's really cool. And, you know, he's also trying to tell Jon, like, you know what, the most important thing on the wall is that you have your brothers. Like, you're not ready unless you can, like, understand that nobody's better than another and that you guys all need each other. I mean, it's kind of like that quote that I was telling you about, like, the lone wolf dies but the pack survives, and that's definitely true of the wall, where survival is key. I mean, it gets cold up there, and then we have those creepy others. Ugh, so, yeah. And then you have Tyrion up there, and they ask him for his help, to, you know, send reinforcements, send men, send what he can, what help he can, because that wall and all the, like, castles and all the men and all those, it's just turning to crap. It's not a good thing anymore. It's not it's a good thing, obviously they're protecting the realm, but it's not as glorious as it used to be. It used to be like, you know, just an honor to be there to protecting the realm, but now it's just like, it's a punishment now. It's not even like an honor. And then even Jon Snow asks Tyrion for help to, you know, kind of help his brother Bran by giving him some wisdom or insight, any help that he can give him, because Tyrion knows what it's like to be an outcast. And then, you know, we find out Bran's scenes that poor little Bran, he just wants to die. He's like an outcast. Like, in that kind of time period, to be crippled is not great. Like, if you're not like the lead of the house, like Rob's the heir to that house, there are a few things Bran can do. He can be a knight, he can, you know, I don't know, maybe be a maester or whatever he wants to do, but usually a lot of those things are not for cripples. And here he is a cripple in this kind of time period where it's not really okay, especially in the north where everyone's kind of rough and tough and hard. So that kind of sucks for Bran, who I love. He's adorable. And hopefully he gets past that. So what else do we have here? Okay, we have Daenerys, and we find Daenerys in this, I guess, in like the scene that she enters to kind of take initiative. She kind of stops the Khalasar, and I assume, like, you know, to take a walk. I mean, she's been riding, or maybe even to take a like bathroom break. So she just like gently like stops the Khalasar, and then all of a sudden her brother Viserys is just like going through looking for her because he's upset that she stopped the Khalasar, and he felt like personally offended. Like, what a sicko. But I just love their relationship. Dany and Viserys' relationship is amazing. Like, it's just like, what kind of brother sister relationships like that? And then, like, it just reminded me of Jaime and Cersei. It's like, what kind of brother sister relationship like that? But anyways, yeah, I think the relationship's really interesting, and I think these two characters play their roles like spot on. And so yeah, he's upset, and then she finally takes initiative and kind of just turns her back on him. Like, she's like, she doesn't want him hurt or like kind of punished for what he did, which I think would have been better. But she just turns her back on him, like, and then it's kind of like that moment where he realizes, like, my sister's the queen and I have no power here. Which he won't be too happy about, I bet, in like the next scene that we see. But one thing that they didn't mention is like that in the book that they mentioned is that he does get punished. It's not made a big deal, but if you notice, he's not allowed to ride his horse. And if you read the books, the horse for the Dothraki people are like the most revered. Like, powerful people ride their horse. Only the old and the weak are like that, and like children aren't able to ride horses, and so they kind of like, or they're like slaves, and so like only strong, fit people ride horses. Like, to ride your horse is just like, I don't know, to be a man or to be a person is if you can ride a horse. And so when he's not allowed to ride his horse, that's like kind of just calling him like old, weak, feeble, unworthy. And they don't make a big deal out of it, but in the books, that's what it means. Like, he's just like the lowest of the low. And so technically he does get punished, but they didn't make a big deal of it in the book, in the show, which I think would have been brilliant. And then next we see Dany's pregnant, and you see she's kind of happy. She's not like crazy overjoyed, but she's like happy. Like, you could kind of see like just like the happiness light up in her eyes when she finds out she's pregnant. And then later when she's lying with Khal Drogo, you can see that they love each other, which I like. This is what I adore about that relationship, is that she was kind of thrown into this kind of situation where she's forced to marry this man that she doesn't know, and instead of being like completely submissive and just taking her place as his wife, she actually finds a way to be a place by his side. Like, she's not standing for like the submissive just little girl. She's willing to be a queen, not just a submissive wife that does whatever he says. She actually does kind of stand up for himself even against him, and then she ends up actually loving him, and he respects her to the point where he doesn't like try to put her in her place or anything. He's content with her being by his side and actually taking initiative, and they actually end up loving each other, which I think was kind of interesting, and I actually love their relationship. I personally wouldn't want to be in that situation, but I like the way Martin did that. And then another person that I love that's with Daenerys is Ser Jorah. Ser Jorah is like the best. I just love his character. Like, he's one of the most interesting side characters in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, and here he is, very close to his character that he was in the books, a bit more handsome, but I really see it. What I like here in the scene where he's talking to the guy who like whips, I just hit myself in the face, who whips Viserys around the neck, I think that was really interesting because they kind of give you like trivia or like facts about like knights and the Dothraki that would be kind of important to know if you've read the books. And it's just kind of like cultural information or, kind of historical information. And so if you're not into fantasy and you don't know anything about knights, or if you've never read the books and you don't know anything about the Dothraki, this was like the perfect opportunity to just kind of give you some information. And I thought that was interesting how they did that. And that's found all throughout the show and the book series. And I'm surprised the show kind of mimicked that, like the kind of clues to information that, like finding out about Peter and Catelyn, and then finding out about, Summerhall when the king brings it up, which is something that, like, one of the biggest mysteries in the books is Summerhall and what happened there. But anyways, just these little, like, bits of information that are sprinkled all throughout the show, and that kind of mimics what the book did, and I thought that was really interesting. So I thought episode 3 was really good, really close to the books. Nothing upset me. Yeah, nothing upset me that I felt like it betrayed the books or kind of just went off on its own thing. So far so good. I'm looking forward to the next ones. I'm hoping a lot of my favorite characters are going to be there. So we shall see, and if you guys can help me like condense these reviews or tell me what I can do to kind of organize better and kind of less babble, or if you like the babble, whatever it is, any feedback you can give me, whether it's you like what I do or you can help me to kind of compact this a bit more, I would be very thankful. Since these reviews are so long, I'm kind of hesitant to want to like redo them, like if I do mess up. So if there are any mess ups, please forgive me. These like end up like 30 minutes long, and I really don't want to redo them. So you guys gotta give me feedback on tips that will help me, so I don't have to like redo or feel like I can't redo because they're too long, and so you're stuck with a bunch of mistakes. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for your time. Bye.